Welcome to the Spiritual Kitchen with Monica Douglas Clark, the Rebel Reverend, and my wonderful guest, Tim Freke. Hi, Tim.
Hi.
I am really excited about today's Spiritual Kitchen, not only because it means actually I'm getting back on it and I'm really open to sharing just the gifts that I've been given from my teachers, mentors, and peers in this wonderful world that we live in. So I'd like to introduce you to Tim, for those of you that don't know him. So Tim is a pioneering philosopher whose best-selling books, inspirational talks and life-changing retreats have touched the hearts and minds of hundreds of thousands of people. He's the author of is it only 35? I mean...
I think I worked it out because people always ask, it's exactly 35.
Okay. Of 35 books translated into more than 15 languages, including the Jesus Mysteries, that was a top 6 Amazon bestseller and Daily Telegraph Book of the Year. His latest books, The Deep Awake and Soul Story, offer a revolutionary approach to awakening and spiritual awakening in the 21st century and a visionary new understanding of the nature of reality. I am so excited to be speaking to you, Tim, not only because I've been on your training and transformation program myself, but also because I feel that you have a message that really can enable people who felt lost and dissatisfied with current ways of dealing with spirituality to find a way in to something new. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be in your kitchen.
Oh, pleasure. Well, at some point we're going to be cooking up a feast.
Let's do it.
So I'm very excited about that. Now, the way we're going to talk today is I'm going to ask you some questions. I've also got a listener question to ask you, and then we're going to cook up our soul feast later. But first, I'd love just to talk to you about where you're at now, what's inspiring you in the world of spirituality.
Great question. Well, on my particular journey, I think I've spent the last period of my life working on how to help people directly experience what I call the deep awake state, which is my word for what is traditionally called spiritual awakening, which is a profound experience of a transformation of state. It's marked out by a experience of wonderful oneness and all-embracing love, and a deep knowing that underneath all of the suffering, all of the chaos, life is fundamentally good. What in the ancient world was called a gnosis, a deep knowing of something primal and fundamental. So what I've been doing is finding ways to take people to that state and sharing that state, which is what I've been exploring all my life. And then this new phase, where am I at now? From that has come a new level of that work, which is to do with, okay, so how can we understand the journey? Yes, there's this state of awakening, but before it and after it, we're still on this human journey. So what is that journey? And a feeling that we need a new understanding for the 21st century, a new philosophy, which can incorporate our scientific knowledge and our spiritual wisdom. And that's quite a challenge, actually. So my real passion where I'm at right now is philosophy. Again, as a philosopher, is to come back to the story and to share some new ideas about what the nature of reality is.
So some new ideas about what the nature of reality is and how we can access that state.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about your journey. I'd love to hear more, actually. So what brought you to this space? It spanned a long period of time. You've obviously moved through levels of awakening. Where did it start?
It started when I was a little boy. It started when I was 12. I think it's it sounds grand. I had a spontaneous awakening, but actually I think a lot of kids do.
Yeah.
And for me, it came from something which was innate in me from the beginning. I can't remember a time where I wasn't feeling that life was profoundly mysterious, along with something which I find it is so deep in me all the way through that it felt something significant is happening. So as a child, it felt like, look, I'm here. It's like I'm in this giant question. There must be a giant answer. This amazing experience I have, this infinite universe, the fact that I'm alive, that I can think and feel, that there's beauty, that there's art, there's some reason for this. This is not, and I have to discover what that is. And so very early on, I made a decision that my life was going to be about discovering what life is. That I wasn't going to get distracted by anything else. I wasn't going to get distracted by a career. I wasn't going to get distracted by making money or owning things or anything. That was all very secondary and looked like, why would you even be bothered with that when faced with this? Which, what the hell is going on? That has to be the purpose of my life, and it still is. Wonderful. So it kind of kicked in from that point, really.
It's wonderful that you had that awakening, that realization so early. So for many people I know who'll be listening, it's come later in their life. And, as a result of particular challenges, particular moments where they've had a glimpse of, oh my gosh, there's more to life than this.
Yeah.
So has that happened to you as well as this starting point, to take you through the levels?
Throughout. I mean, it's been continual. I don't want to give anyone the impression that I woke up when I was 12 and ever since I've been gliding in this state. No, it's been up and down. And by nature, I spent a lot of my life in the creative world, making music and then writing books. And part of that artistic temperament is tumultuous. My experience of life is intense.
Yeah.
Because I want to penetrate it. So I would say it's been a constant process of finding new levels and then losing myself and finding new levels. And the two seem to be linked to me. That when I think there is a natural pulling into the dark before there's a new explosion of light, if you like, metaphorically. So the journey has been full on and still is. And I'm not of the school which wants or expects, like I've arrived. That sounds like death to me. I mean, in a negative sense, that feels like emptiness, really. It's the movement that seems so exciting about life. So there's been constant. It has changed, Monica. It has changed in that if I look back at my early years, teens and 20s and into my 30s, certainly the early part, it was more like sudden, oh my God, I see it all so clearly. I'm completely lost. I see it all so clearly. I feel completely lost. More like that. So moments, and I could probably tell you all the moments. I could go, oh, there was this moment when I was really awake, and then there was that 3 weeks when I was really awake, and then there was this one. And I've forgotten them all. There's been so many. And it's less dramatic because the base state has moved up, but it's still movement, and I'm still discovering new things, and I still feel life is as mysterious as it's ever been as well.
Great. Well, I think that would be kind of a sense of relief for many people, Tim, just in case they were thinking, it's all plain sailing. It's like you're, as you said in your own words, penetrating life and you want to experience it fully. I know you've got a family, you've got a wife,
Absolutely.
Having met you and spent lots of time with you, it's lovely just to, I think we have a bit of you talk about being a lover of life. And that's my experience of you very much. It's like, actually, I don't want to be detached from it. I want to be in it. I want to experience it fully. I think that's a very important message for people, especially who, I've had my own training, but where it seems as though that the more distanced in a way you are from life, the calmer it is and the more placid it is. But actually, you're missing out on life.
Yeah, it is. There's an awful lot of spirituality which is very negative. And partly it's because it's very old. And I'm not a believer that old is better. In fact, generally, old is not so good. Because for me, this is the whole of existence is a process of evolution. And therefore, whilst it's not linear in any sense, and a lot of old things are wonderful, of course, there is a tendency towards progression. So we need to keep reinventing, because that's how things move on. And spirituality is the same. So a lot of old spirituality is about withdrawing, escaping. It's very negative. We're in a situation where we're in illusion, we're lost. The human journey is a mistake. Human emotions are bad. Thoughts are bad. There's an endless list of things about our humanity that's bad. I don't experience that at all. I don't see it like that. To me, these things are not bad. They are the very juice of life. It's about how we engage with them and seeing them in their deepest light and being willing to go through the process of transformation which they allow, not getting stuck in them, which is a very different perspective than one which seeks to be constantly equanimous and still. And it's more to do with it for me. I mean, maybe we'll get on to talk about this what I call a paralogical approach to awakening, which is to do with seeing the paradox of everything. It's more to do with me of seeing there's a place in which I'm always still, which is the depths of my being, and there's a place where I'm always going up and down, and that's on the surface, like an ocean. The depths of the ocean is always still, and the surface is always moving. Sometimes it's moving a little, sometimes it's moving a lot, and that's how I am on the surface. But the depths is always still, and it's not one or the other. You couldn't have the depths of the ocean without the surface, and you couldn't have the surface without the depths.
Yes.
And if thinking you've got to choose one or the other causes immense confusion. But seeing that you're always both opens up a new form of spiritual challenge, which is, okay, so can I be on the surface where all the action's happening, but not forget the depths where I'm still as well, but not instead?
I think it's a perfect time to talk more about that, actually, this sense of stillness or movement and stillness, depth and shallowness. One of the things that I loved about some of the early, now excuse me, listeners, but, it's just reality. This thing about being a great soul, and that's there, and the arsehole, right here. And how do we bring that?
Yeah.
How are we that? It's a very important thing.
For me, it's because the depths of our being, what is traditionally called spirit, or in the East can be called Atman or Buddha nature, our being, our essence, is universal. That everything, all individual beings like you and me, are arising from, and therefore essentially are, one universal potentiality of being. So when you come into your depths, there is a presence which is actually formless, which sounds weird, but it's formless because it's what's experiencing all form. It's not any particular, it hasn't got a color, it hasn't got a shape, it doesn't make any noise. And it's here right now, experiencing all of the shapes and colors and sounds and thoughts. And when you come back into that, if you learn to pay attention to your being, so you turn attention back on the thing which is witnessing this, the experiencer, there is this oceanic oneness of being. And it's not going anywhere because there's nothing to go anywhere. So it's completely, that's where there's deep peace, safety, stillness. But Tim is on a journey. He's on a big journey. He started as a little tiny egg and sperm, and look at him now. And then he's going to go through the death barrier and come out the other side, and a whole new thing's going to start. He's constantly moving. So there's a part of me which is partial and separate and individual, which is moving and transforming. And there's my essence, which is universal and one with everything, which is completely still. The problem for most of us is we get stuck in the individual bit. So we're just thrown up and down. The job for me of spirituality is not to get rid of that, the opposite. It's to complement it with this deep stillness so that we can find it when we need to. And that means immersing ourselves in it from time to time so that we can actually make the journey more successfully, not get rid of the journey. Personally, the reason I feel very lucky to have had those experiences when I was young is I don't know how I would have got through life if I didn't know that essentially everything was okay.
Yeah.
I think I would have been um, lost and depressed and angry and confused. Now, I've had all of that to some degree, but I think I would have had it out of control if I didn't have this place that which I kept coming back to, which went, and it's all okay. So, okay, and it's all okay. So I can engage with the place where sometimes it's just not.
Yeah. I feel this is the hope in the message that,
Yeah.
that actually, yes, you're right. Here, somewhere in all this turmoil, this is holding me.
Yeah. And that's an experience.
Yeah.
It's not a belief.
Yeah.
The belief can sustain you for a while. So if you lose the experience, you've still got the belief because you had the experience, and that can hold you up and go, yeah, no, I do believe that life is all right. But if you get hit hard, the belief will shatter.
Yes.
Which is why it's really important to have developed the facility as best as you can to find those depths within yourself and get to know them over and over and over again, so that then even when, for instance, for me recently, last few years, both my parents died, and being with both of them, the last one was my dear mum, who I love to bits, and being with her going through cancer and all of that was a very amazing experience because it was so much. It was beautiful, it was terrible, it was ugly, it was marvelous, it was everything all at once, and it could easily have been totally overwhelming. But the thing which sustained me was that there is a direct experience. The certainty I have,
yes,
comes from, I just know this. I know it on such a deep level. It's before words that this is good. That something amazing is happening through all of this, and that sustains you on the journey. Which is why all the great spiritual traditions of the world, at their heart, have had this knowing, this gnosis, which is beyond words, before words, I think is a better way of saying it.
Yes.
It's primal.
So this deep knowing, then, we've talked about it, and you said already that it's important that you have the experience of it, not just the belief in it, and that not only that you have the experience of it as a one-off, but you have a repeated experience of it, so that whenever life hits you, which it will inevitably, you know you can drop back into that place, feel held, supported by it, and know that this particular storm will at some point settle down. How do you do that? What's your approach?
Well, one of the things which I do, obviously, is guide people to that experience at my retreats, my deep awakening retreats. So what I'm looking at there is how we can pay attention to our deep being in ourselves and in each other, and see it so clearly that we develop a relationship with it, which we can then carry on our own. For me personally, like I said, it would arise, and it felt, for most of my early life, it felt like grace, if you like. It felt like it just comes, often when I least expect it, and then it goes, and then I have to find it again. It's not like that now. Now, to some degree, it's always there, because I've got to know it in my past long enough that there's always, even when I'm feeling my most lost, there's a feeling of it's still there. It's okay. Whereas that would go. So the way that I found it in that journey for me has been really various.
Okay.
I haven't, it's been through meditation, but it's also been through psychedelics. It's been through dancing. It's been through stillness. Because it's a universal thing. It's there all the time. So whenever I enter into anything fully, it's there. So if I enter into stillness fully, it's there. If I enter into creativity fully, it's there. If I enter into passionate love affair fully, it's there. If I enter into being a parent fully, it's there. So it's not like there's the technique.
Okay.
But what there is the things which you have been exploring with me at the Deep Awakening, which is a way of homing it down over a weekend, so you can really focus in on it in a very safe environment. And the way that we've done that is by what we're doing now, connecting with each other in a deep way.
Yes.
And if we do that, this transformation happens really powerfully. I think there's two things. Do you want me to just play on this? There's
Come on, yeah.
Can I just roll from it? There's two things which I think have been the secret. Because of my own experience, if you told me 15 years ago that I could gather together a group of strangers in any country in the world and take the vast majority of them through to a powerful experience of awakening, they feel the big love in every cell in their body, and they they just got it, I would have thought that was impossible. But that's what's been happening for a while now.
Yeah.
So that I'm pretty confident that anyone who comes to a deep awakening will experience this, very likely. They'll certainly have a good time. They may experience the best experience they've ever had. So it's a pretty good range. So why is that? What's the secret? Why is that happening now? Well, probably we're all waking up a bit. So that helps. Yeah. But in terms of what I'm doing, two things. One is the thing we've just talked about. For me, it's not about getting rid of anything. So I don't have to get rid of Tim to discover this, because they're both present all the time.
Yes.
So that means that I can be with people on my journey and say, hey, Monica's fine. I'm sure if I hung out with her long enough, there'll be bits about her which would be too much. And likewise, if you hung out with Tim, it'd be bits where you went, whoa, I thought he was like that, but turns out he's also like that. So, and we're all like it.
Yes.
So let's just be okay with that, because we wouldn't be on an evolutionary journey if we were all perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get better if there's not something which is not so good. Yeah. So that's what we're like. We're all learning, we're all journeying. So let's be kind to ourselves and to each other, and just let the personality be for now, for while we discover this. And then so that immediately makes it easier, because there's nothing fighting. It just goes, okay. So Tim can relax, and I can pay attention to this deep thing. So that's the first thing that really helps. Creating an environment which is totally safe, very relaxed, where people don't have to pretend to be spiritual. It's not, hello, I've come on a retreat and I'm being very, like, no, be yourself.
Yeah.
Just be who you are. If you're very still, be very still. If you're like me and over-enthusiastic, well, you're over-enthusiastic. Like, just be yourself. You don't have to be like anyone else. You don't have to pretend to be like the teacher or all that nonsense. And then the thing which I have found the most powerful, even more powerful than meditation, is meditating on each other.
Mm.
So if I'm here with you now, and I can see clearly that what I'm doing is I'm seeing your face on my screen. It's a pixelated image. But that's what I'm seeing. But what I'm connecting with, and it would be the same if you were here in person, I'm connecting with this deep presence of consciousness, awareness, looking back at me. Mm-hmm. I'm reaching another conscious being at the depths of your soul. And I can't see that. It's invisible, but it's there. So what I do with people is say, look, let's spend a few minutes with another person being conscious of that when we look at each other, we're connecting beyond looking. When we listen to each other, we're connecting beyond listening. When we touch each other, we're connecting beyond touch. And when you get that, as you know from your own experience, a real transformation of consciousness happens. And if you do it with a whole load of people in a safe and beautiful and relaxed and playful environment, this deep awake state just happens of itself. And you can't miss it because of the love. And there's the love. And you go, oh, I know. Now I know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you've brought us naturally to the place of our feast. You've started already, Tim.
I have. I jumped in. You know what I'm like? It's like, hey, can we start now? Let's have.
Yeah. Yeah, like you've said, this creation of a safe space, and then enabling people to start to connect with each other, not by themselves, but with each other beyond touch, beyond speech, beyond listening. But, I think that's the gift that you really bring, that this isn't a solitary pursuit.
Absolutely, because isn't the most amazing thing? This is a hell of a journey. Yeah. And that I am on this journey is far out, and that I'm a conscious being is amazing. but that you are on this journey with me,
Yeah.
another conscious being. For me to get that this experience of being and of the world that I'm having and of soul that I'm having, you are also having.
Yeah.
And not just you, but you and you and you and you. That is like, wow.
Absolutely.
And it's a lovely experience, you know, and one that a lot of people have, I think, where you go out into nature and you feel one with nature and with the sun and the moon and the stars. And that's interesting and beautiful, amazing. But it's a very different thing when you become conscious with another conscious being, because then you're clearly also two as well. Because when I'm one with you, we're one in this deep being, but we're also individual, because I'm not looking out of your eyes. I'm not thinking your thoughts. You see the world uniquely, and yet we're also one. We're two and one at the same time. And that being two and one at the same time, that's what love is.
Yeah.
Love is the communion, that we're individual but meeting as one. And it's the both, the two and the one, which makes it love. Which is why when we connect with each other in that powerful way, there's this incredible, universal, all-embracing, deep love. It's not just a little pink fluffy love. It's a really deep, resonant love.
Yeah. Great.
Which is the only thing in my experience which can actually hold the suffering. Only that love can do it.
Yeah. That has the infinite depth.
Yeah.
Within which everything can be.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim. I could talk to you forever. You know how it is. My thing now with the spiritual kitchen is for us to give people their soul feast in a way that they can taste some of what you bring at your retreats, in your books. And I know you've got Soul Story, which is a whole deep philosophy, which I'm going to have to do another talk with you about that, I think.
Yeah. What about the questions? You want to look at that, or are we going to do that?
Yeah. This is the thing about. Well, we could say. Yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do. We will do David Wetton's question, because he's asked a specific, and I think this may also help you in talking about Soul Story and where you've got to in this philosophy. So
Okay.
David sent this question in advance to me, and he's a faith-based executive coach and emotional and spiritual intelligence thought leader, which I love as a description. And he asks, in the chat, just bear with me. In Soul Story, you talk about the immortality of the soul. So presumably, he says, you believe in the version of past lives and an ongoing future lives for the soul. And if this is so, where is this all leading? What is our ultimate purpose as a soul? Big question.
It is. So I'm going to have to answer that, obviously, briefly. It'll take me the next hour and a half. No, obviously, I can't do that for David. So I'm going to just give a brief overview. So this is in my book, Soul Story, which came out yesterday. It's just all new in the world. And it's the most significant book I've written of the 35. It's the latest, and it's the new philosophy, which I call emergent spirituality. So the essence of emergent spirituality is that the way we can unite scientific knowledge and spiritual wisdom is to understand that everything in existence is evolving, everything. So that we have this deep self we've been talking about, from which everything is emerging. From the formless potentiality of spirit, we have seen from the Big Bang onwards, the evolution of everything, the realization of ever deeper potentials. And on that journey, the first thing that gets realized for quite a few billion years is all of matter, from hydrogen and chemicals and galaxies and universes. The physicality of the world emerges first, and then from that emerges biology, life, from single cells right up to you and I. And then from that emerges this other level of soul or psyche, the mind, imagination. which was what we're experiencing, all of that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, which I'm not going to go into, you have to have a look at the book, is the idea that with the emergence of this other dimension, which you and I are experiencing, which the ancients called soul, we call it psyche today. They also called it psyche. This is a Greek word, ancient Greek word, which is this other realm which we don't experience with the senses. We experience it as imagination. It's made of mind stuff. It's where you're understanding the meaning of these words right now.
Yeah.
That place, we've seen the evolution of immortality. So for the first time, something becomes immortal because it's not made of matter. It's not organic. And that's evolved. So the immortal soul has evolved through this process of 13.8 billion years, which has led to this.
Mm.
Where's the end game? Well, this is a big jump, and I'm going to just jump in because he's asked the deep question. And I'm just going to say it, and to see why I would say it, you'd need to look at the book. I think in that journey, there's been a process of things becoming more individual and also then jumping onto a new level. I call it unividuation. Here's a really simple example. In the early process, in the evolution of matter, we found that matter individuated into individual chemicals. So we have hydrogen and oxygen, and they're different.
Mm.
At a certain point, they got it on together and created H2O, and then there was water, which would combine them both on a new level. In the same way, we first saw the development of a single cell. And then at a certain point, they came together, and the next thing you know, you have my body, which is a communion of cells, all working together. It took a long time to evolve, and now here it is. The thing I want to offer people as the place this is going is that actually the same thing is happening with soul. And that souls also, especially in the after-death state, in the communion of what people experience as the light, what they meet after death, the love light, as people often call it, or in the Tibetan Book of Dead, it's called the luminosity of potentiality, this thing which people in NDEs and experience a lot, that this is a communion of souls, where souls come together as one. So when we go into that deep awake state that we've been exploring earlier, we touch on this communion of souls. And the nature of this communion of souls is love, because love is what it is to be one and two. So we're one and many. When we enter that place where we're not just many, we're also one and many, consciously, we come into a communion of souls. And just as the communion of cells gave birth to something much greater, which is Tim, so the communion of souls is giving birth to something much greater, which is a transcendent level of spirit, which traditionally we call God. So that the end game is that the universe is giving birth to God. Not God giving birth to the universe, but the universe giving birth to God. Through this process of evolution, the deepest elements are arriving last, not first. It didn't start with soul. It started with hydrogen. But it ended up with soul. And then from soul, it's ended up with this communion of souls. And I can't know what that is, what it's like to be transcendent spirit any more than a cell can know what it's like to be Tim. But I do know what it's like to commune in that oneness, because I've done that a lot. And that feels like love.
So the thing about this, Tim, is when I read Soul Story, I was blown away by the potentiality of this. And then what I thought was, my goodness, there's going to be a lot of people that don't like this in terms of it's a bit of a mind mess, because not many people have, the systems that we've been trained in, the systems that we've been brought up in, the philosophies that we've immersed ourselves in have been about separate silos. And this is saying, well, actually, all these are well and good, but up here it's coming together to be something much bigger than all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it does require us to let go of our silos.
It does. And by bringing together these two forms of human understanding, scientific knowledge and spiritual wisdom, it requires both to change. And so what I'm asking science to do is to acknowledge that. So at the moment, they just go, well, there was physical evolution, and then there was biological evolution, and that's it. And the whole mind and the psyche, that's just a kind of weird byproduct of biology. And I'm going, no, it's not. It's a whole new level of reality, which is the most significant level of reality. And all the things that spirituality studies arises at this level of evolution, which is the place where the physical and biological evolution have led to. So I'm asking science to really open itself up to this other dimension as an extension of the thing that it's studying. With spirituality, what I'm asking them to do is go, look, you're not studying something which has been eternally there. God's not at the beginning running the show. If he was, he'd be a monster, to be honest, because the show is ugly. He'd also be nuts, because what sort of God runs a show which involves 120 million years of dinosaurs? I mean, that's absurd. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. But if we understand it in this new way, if we stop seeing life as a mistake and a fall from something perfect, but rather the evolution towards something perfect, that the goodness of life, the feeling I have that this is good, is because it's going somewhere good. That's what makes it good. And if you know that, and you can feel that even the worst of things is going somewhere good, then it's all redeemable.
I'd love to, we move from that place of that it's all redeemable, which is a really interesting place to move from, to say, okay, how do we do that on a practical level? So this feast, let's do this feast.
Let's do this
so
feast.
That people get a sense of how they can get a tangible experience of this. And how whatever has happened in their life up until this point, and this is one of the things that I really think is like the past is not lost. It's it travels with us. Is just, for me, is another very powerful thing, rather than feeling like we need to cut off parts of ourselves. It's not that. It's like it's with us, and it's enabled us to be in this place. So let's do this feast. What is your starter, Tim? So this is the starter, main and dessert of practices or inspiration for people.
Okay, well, my starter for sure is mystery. So I've just talked about this whole great philosophy. But that philosophy arises from mystery. And I am not someone who's going, listen to me, I have privileged knowledge. I don't. And do you know what? Nobody does. Nobody does. And those that claim it are pretty dangerous, in my view. We need to keep a fundamental humility, which is this immense mystery. And even when we have a great idea, it's still just as mysterious. So coming out of all ideas is the starter, and being face to face with this moment in its raw, breathtaking mystery. And the minute you do that, if you're going along in life, try it. This is why it's a great starter.
Okay.
Anytime you think you know for sure what's going on, you've lost the mystery. So find it. So just step out and look. You're in an infinite universe. You don't know who you are and what this is, really. It's always beyond us. It's beyond any ideas. And the minute you step out, then your story is now in a bigger context. And so you're free to look at it in new ways. So if we can, the place to start, taste the mystery. And it's exquisite and ecstatic as well, to step out and go, wow, right here, right now, this is happening. Wow, what is it? I don't know. It's amazing.
I love that. It's like the humility of not knowing gives you the freedom to open up to all potential.
From the freedom of not knowing, you can then find the best way of knowing that you can, knowing that it's never the end. It's just a step forward. And the mystery never gets any less. The more I understand, the mystery stays just as big. In fact, in some ways, I think I appreciate more and more all the time. So part of my job with the starter, always felt like to me, was to sidle up behind people and go, psst, have you noticed that you haven't got a clue what's going on?
Yeah.
Because what amazes me is we go about our lives as if we do.
Mm.
We go about our lives as if we know exactly what this is and what needs doing and what's important. Whereas actually, everything we've discovered about, one of my favorite things with physics is it's come back and gone that none of this is here, that this is all empty space. Well, what? The universe, there's 100 billion galaxies. Galaxies, not stars, galaxies. The idea that we know, yes, I think this, and it's like nonsense. So that's when we're lost in illusion, when we lose the mystery. So find the mystery and you find reality.
Oh, I like that. I was going to ask you to sum it up in one sentence. You've just
So that's the little, let's start with that. That cleans the palate.
Yeah,
that cleans the palate, ready for the actual meal.
I love it. Beautiful. So taste the mystery, find the mystery, and you find reality. Love it. Great. Beautiful starter. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. We're ready.
Enjoy.
We're ready for our entree.
I think the main course we've already touched on.
Yeah.
The main course is to connect with yourself and others. So that a very common meditation practice is sometimes called witnessing, or being the experiencer, or I call it presencing.
Yeah.
Is to be conscious of your deep being as the experiencer of this. So your deepest being is not itself an experience, or it's only the experience of being. Everything else, everything you're seeing and listening, all the senses and the imagination, your thoughts and feelings, that is being experienced by something, and that's your being, that's your I. And it itself is not an experience, which is a very interesting thing. So when we meditate, you take your attention, which normally goes out into experience, and pull it back on the experiencer, your being. That's what meditation is.
Yes.
What I'm suggesting is you do that, and because it's the same, it's the complement, do that, see that in other people. And you can do that, if you've got the luxury, which people who use my soul to soul meditations, you can do it with somebody who wants to do it with you. Fantastic. Yeah. But you can do it without anyone knowing. You can be walking down the street and you can be conscious that you're connecting with other conscious beings that you can't see. You see the body, which is amazing, but you don't see the conscious witness. But it's there. And if you're aware of it in them, it makes it stronger in you. If you do have somebody, if you have a spiritual friend, someone who likes to play, then stick on some beautiful music and just meditate on each other for 2-3 minutes.
Yes.
Just and just gazing is a great way. Just open your gaze, invite them in, hold hands, and just go, we're going to just sit here in quiet while the music plays, relaxed, and I'm going to connect with your deepest being from my deepest being and see what happens. And at first it might feel a bit weird, but if you hang in it, within 30 seconds, you'll feel like, actually, this is really nice. And after a minute, you'll start thinking, this is really nice. And then you'll be feeling like, do we have to stop? and then you'll be in.
I love it. Yeah. And having experienced that meditation time and time again, this, after years of doing solitary internal meditation, which is amazing, to then come out and be in that space and seeing that in another is just a game changer. It's absolutely wonderful.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's because if you go into yourself, it's possible to find the stillness and the peace. But when you go out, you also find the love.
Yeah.
Because the love is the two as one. So that's where you reach out and it's like, oh, there we are, 2 and 1. And then there's the love. And the love's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the real thing.
Okay, so if on our takeaway menu you're going to describe that in a sentence, Tim, how would you describe it? So we've talked about connect with self and other as the title, the name of the dish. How would you describe it in a sentence?
Sorry, is this for the main dish still, or we moved on to
the main?
How would I describe it? Oh, I would describe it as the joy of communion.
So find the joy of communion by connecting with your consciousness as
your own deep being,
Yep.
and the deep being of others.
Mm.
From deep being to deep being.
Mm. Mm. And a very practical way of doing that is with the soul-to-soul meditations.
With gazing, yeah. I mean, I started gazing, whatever it was, 20 years ago. At that time, it was a pretty weird thing, and people were pretty scared of it, really.
Yeah.
Now, it's quite common. More and more people are doing it.
Yeah.
I've been developing it for all those years, and I've seen that other people have done it too. And but the key is how it's done.
Yes.
There's lots of ways of doing it. So do it with real kindness.
Yeah.
Do it with inquisitiveness. Do it with playfulness. It's a very, very serious thing, so you need to be playful. you don't want to be just playful. You don't want to be just serious. You want to be able to enter into it and just go, what happens if we do this? And if you create a very safe environment to do it in, and if you really want a gourmet version of this meal, come and hang out with me for a weekend.
Yeah.
And you can have the gourmet version, and then you can go home and share it with your friends.
I agree. Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, this is great, and I can absolutely recommend this dish. So it's like this meditation and process with Tim is like, it's like Egon Rone version. Marvelous. So ready for my dessert.
Yeah. What's the sweet thing at the end? Well, I think it's the love. That where this is all leading to is being a love of life. Yeah. Where this is leading to is realizing that what really matters is love. So I said that if I had to try and capture, and it can sound very naive and childlike, but it's the deepest thing I know, actually, as a philosopher. The deepest thing I know is childlike, which is that life is good, death is safe, and what really matters is love.
Oh.
So for me, that's the sweet. Understanding that and then carrying that out into life. Life is good, death is safe, and what really matters is love.
I'm just going to sit with that for a little while. I'm going to encourage the listeners and the watchers to sit with that for a while. That life is good, death is safe, and that what really matters is love. I don't think you could have ended this feast any better, Tim.
Perfect.
I really want to encourage the listeners, the watchers, to explore your work more. I know from personal first-hand experience how wonderful reading your books and being with you is. It's been a privilege to also bring my partner Simon along to our events with you, and it's really, I can say this, he won't mind, it's revolutionized our relationship and brought in a whole a layer and depth of love and connection that wasn't there before we started doing your work. So I'm very grateful for that. And I know it's touched us all personally, both personally as well. And I also have to say that you attract the most wonderful people to your events as well. I've got some marvelous friends from it. So how can people find out more about you? Obviously you have Soul Story out, and I'll put the link to that with this recording. And I'm going to put that on the takeaway feast that I'll prepare and share as a result of our time together. But how else can people connect with you?
The best way is to come to my website, which is just timfreke.com. It's a strange old name, so you have to spell it right. It's spelled Freke.
Yes.
But it's such a strange name that you'll find me.
Yes.
And we've got a new website. There's loads of free material, free guided meditations. if you want to do that soul-to-soul meditation with a friend, for instance, there's a soul-to-soul meditation guided by me, absolutely free. You can download it, you can play it off of YouTube, and so you can sit down with your friend and you can have me in the background guiding you if that would help. So that's all there for you, and loads of other bits of information. And then, of course, the best of all, come and hang out and experience the deep awakening and make that journey.
Well, we've also got the opportunity to do that. So in June, we're going to do an experiment, so some more mystery and wonder, where I host him and his new movie, Soul Story. So we're going to do it virtually and be in a space together, which is a new experiment because we want to reach as many people as possible. And then in September, we'll have an opportunity to do some soul-to-soul meditations and experience the deep awake state with Tim in the Midlands. So again, I will post all these details with this podcast, and you can join our mailing list so that you're the first to know when tickets are available for both of those events. So I'm really excited, Tim. It's been a really deep pleasure sharing space with you today, as always.
Well, it's been a joy to be in your kitchen.
Pleasure, Tim. Anytime.
Making this meal together.
Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah.
It's been delicious, and I'm sure many will enjoy it. And may it be the start of something very new and fresh and nourishing for many. Thank you very much.